What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Falz is finally here, and we finally know the statistics of the new Cinquem weapon series and the 3 new units that drop from the Falz UQ. So let's go ahead, dive into all the statistics, and see if it's worthy of your money or time investment going into either of these series. First off, I'd like to start by talking about the Cinquem set. We have been teased quite a bit in the past 2 months with all the headlines about this weapon series, but we finally have the information to back it up. This weapon series has 385 attack at level 50, and the item potential is called Virtuoso unit, and at level 4 it provides 26% potency and increases resistant HP recovery and reduces PP consumption by 1% of the number of different weapon and unit augments, and that is up to 20% if it is a level 4 item potential. This has also been confirmed by other community members that these are unique augments. If you're curious how to optimize your augment build for the Cinquem item potential, go ahead and click in the upper right hand corner. I have a detailed explanation of how you can optimize without sacrificing a lot of potency for this specific weapon series. Now, unlike other item potentials, the Cinquem series, it requires Photon Scales for their item potential level upgrades. It requires Photon Scales for its level 4 item potential as well. So this means in total, you are going to need 1,250 Photon Scales to get the Cinquem item potential all the way to level 4. Now, if you've been playing this game for a bit, you know how difficult it is to get Photon Scales. Currently in the game, we only have 5 that we can gather daily from the Southern Retem region, and now with the introduction of rank 2 zones, you can get 8 Photon Scales upon completing any of the rank 2 Alia UQs, as well as Falz, which offers 12 Photon Scales upon completing. This is still going to take a very long time to get all of the Photon Scales necessary for this weapon series. So, in a previous AC scratch, which is currently unavailable, there was an item that was called N Potential Unlock Substitute, level 1, 2, and 3. And these items allowed you to skip the material cost of the potential unlock. And with previous series, that didn't matter because the materials required to unlock the potentials were very abundant and easily gatherable. But we now have a set in the Cinquem series that requires Photon Scales, which is a very difficult material to acquire. So these end potential unlock substitutes are very important if you are trying to get to these higher level potentials in a timely manner. Let's go ahead and just crunch some numbers to see how long it would take for you to get to level 4 potential. So in this example, I am assuming that you are going to do 3 UQs daily, with one of those being the Falz UQ. So that will give you 28 scales just off of urgent quests. Combined with farming daily in the South Retem region to get an additional 5 scales, that means you would acquire 33 scales daily. If we divide that by the amount that you need, which is 1,250 total, that would take 37.8 days with this example to get all the way to level 4 item potential of your Cinquem weapon. If you were to skip the level 1 potential costs, you would only need 33 days in this example to get the level 4 potential. If you were to skip the level 2 potential costs as well, it would take 27 days. And if you were to skip all the way to level 3 potential costs, it would take 18.1 days to get the remaining 600 Photon Scales required to get to level 4. So what I'm trying to prove in this example is that if you cannot invest into any of these end potential unlock substitutes, you're going to have to do at least this much in this example for over a month to get the level 4 item potential. So what they said in the headline is very true. They mentioned that this weapon was going to be very easy to attain, but very, very difficult material-wise to upgrade the weapon. Now with that all behind us, let's go ahead and just look into the stats of the weapon and see if it is even worth going into that much of a grind. So down below I have a data sheet that is showing the damage values to the Relik series and the Cinquem series using the highest potency augment build that we have currently in the game, which is going to give us a final value of 67.2% potency and 97% floor potency. And this is showing that yes, Cinquem is better than Relik, but not by too much. But one thing that I want to clarify about the Cinquem series is that we know that they also drop from rank 3 combat sectors, which means that we as a community are going to see more Fixa Cinquems. So we're not directly comparing a clean Relik to a clean Cinquem, because the Reliks experienced the exact opposite situation, which was a low drop rate, which meant very few fixes in the market. So we're not comparing a clean relic to a clean Cinquem, rather we're comparing a clean relic to a fixa Cinquem because you will be able to get into these fixa Cinquems. So if we were to compare those values, you can see that there is a stark difference in the damage that you're going to observe. So if you are planning on going into a Cinquem weapon, I would recommend at a very minimum trying to find at least a fixa attack 2 or fixa fatale 2 Cinquem. This means that you're investing in a weapon that is going to have more damage than what Relik could ever achieve, and therefore all of your Photon Scale investment is going into a weapon that is going to have some lasting power. But we know that the final potential unlock of the Cinquem series requires 600 Photon Scales, which is almost half of the Photon Scale requirement, and that's going to be where you invest most of your time getting to. So you're most likely going to be sitting on a level 3 item potential Cinquem. Let's just for fun compare the damage value between a Relik when their level 4 item potential and a Cinquem with their level 3, since that's the most realistic damage calculation that we're going to see for the next couple weeks if you do invest in Cinquem. And this data sheet is showing exactly that. You can see the damage of Cinquem still lines up quite evenly with Relik, but it does fall a little bit behind. But as I just stated with the previous data sheet, we're not comparing a clean Relik to a clean Cinquem. We're most likely going to be able to invest into a fixa attack 2 or 3 or fixa fatale 2 or 3. So if we were to shade those cells again, you're going to notice again that even fixa attack 1 Cinquem at level 3 item potential is still stronger than a clean Relik. So once again, if you are planning on going into a Cinquem, as long as you're investing in a fixa attack 2 or 3 or fatale 2 or 3 or greater if the opportunity presents itself, you can be confident that your investment is still stronger even at an item level potential of 3. If we use the same example that we previously did, but only use it with the Photon Scale requirement for level 3 potential, if you don't have any level skips, you're going to get there in 19.6 days. But if you can skip the level 1 potential, in just about 2 weeks from right now, you will be able to get to level 3 potential. If you can skip the level 2 potential cost as well, in just over 1 week, you will also be able to get to level 3 potential. So what are my final takeaways from the Cinquem series? Well, the Cinquem series is a very good weapon series, but it requires an incredible amount of Photon Scales. So for a player that's not investing into any of these N potential unlock substitutes, you can expect to grind daily for over 1 month to complete a Cinquem weapon. However, if you can afford N potential unlock substitutes, a level 3 or 4 item potential becomes achievable within a few weeks. Overall, Cinquem is better than Relik, but it does require that material investment. So you should still consider Relik if this material grind does not interest you. A lot of people aren't playing the game right now, and that's completely fine, but don't invest into a Cinquem if you're not willing to put in that time. This is a weapon series that is going to require daily investment, especially around the UQs to get more Photon Scales. So let's now talk about the new units from the Dark Falz UQ. We have 3 new units, and they're called Schwarzest armor, Schwarzgarde armor, and Schwarzrosso armor. They provide 70 defense at level 50, 1% damage resist. They all offer 25 health, 3 photon power, and each of these offer 2% potency and their specific type. So the Schwarzest armor offers 2% melee, Schwarzgarde offers 2% ranged potency, and the Schwarzrosso armors offer 2% tech potency. Now, if we were to compare the stats of the new Schwarzest armor sets to the other 2 units that we have in the game currently with 2% potency, that being Greas and Geant, you are going to observe that Schwarzest armors have some of the best stats compared to all of these 3. As you can see, they have the most health, they have the most damage resist, they have the same amount of potency, and they have no negative elemental resist as well. But there is a heavy drawback, which is that these new armors do not provide a lot of photon power, and photon power is very important to any build. So we now finally have an example with these new units of how you optimize your build is going to really dictate how you are as a player. So, for example, with the introduction of these new rank 3 Alio combat zones, we now have Alio boss souls and Retem boss souls that reach this rank 3 mark. They both offer 2.5% weapon potency, but the Retem souls offer 15 health, whereas the Alio souls offer 5 photon power. And this is now an interesting situation. Let me bring in Schwarzest armor and Geant armor to show how important these two different bosses are going to play a role in how you build your character. So, for example, we know with the Schwarzest armors, we have more HP than we do with Geant, but we know that we are also not getting as much photon power. This makes it a prime candidate for the new Alio souls, so we can get additional photon power into our build. And on the flip side, we know that with Geant armor, we're getting more photon power, but we have less health than the Schwarzest armor. This makes it a prime candidate for the Retem series, so we can make sure we make up for any limiting factors with that unit. And as you can see with this example, between these two units, there is a 4 armor, 30 health, and 2 photon power difference between these two units. That really isn't a lot, but if we were to do this on all 3 pieces of armor, you would have a 90 health difference in the case of going into the new Schwarzest armors. And now if we were to do the same thing with Greas armor, which has negative 40 HP and 13 starting photon power, and we were to provide these Greas armors with a Retem Soul 3, you would see that the HP would go down to negative 25, and there would be a 2 armor, 50 health, and 5 photon power difference between these two units. Now, I'm not saying you have to use the Alio souls with these new units, but I'm simply trying to provide a visual of how these new armors stack up with what was our previous best in slot offensive units. So I think the biggest question that surrounds these new units is, when is it worth for you to invest in these new units? So if you are a player and you have already invested in Geant or Greas units with a fixa on them, as well as high-end capsules, for example, Addy capsules, reinvesting into armors that only offer some additional health and 1% damage resist is just not worth it. The Geant and Greas armors are suitable for all remaining content we will see until level 60, which should release in June. And another thing to consider is that reselling these armors is going to be very difficult and inefficient. You need to imagine how many other players are selling their armors in this exact situation right now, which means you're going to have a lot of competition when it comes to selling them, which means that you are going to constantly be driving down the price to try to make your armor more attractive. You're pretty much just giving away money at that point. On the other end, that buyer, if they have 10 million Macedo sitting around to buy your old unit, what's stopping them from buying these new units that we know are better and just making their new units? So it's going to be a very difficult sale. In the case of somebody who's using 3 Greas armors, you could consider going into 1 or maybe 2 Schwarzest armors, just so you're not as glass cannon. But Greas is still really good because it does provide so much photon power. So once again, this is a case-by-case basis. Now, if you are using all 3 Geant units, I personally believe that you should not switch out of those. You aren't really losing that much health if you go into Retem Soul 3s for that extra 15 HP. You have a nice photon power pool with those 3 units. The armor is just fine for our meta, and since they only cost 1 arms refiner to upgrade, since they are 4-star units, it is very cost affordable to get them to plus 50 and to get that 5th augment slot on your units. Now on the flip side, if you do not have a heavy investment into any previous armors, these are the best armors to invest for the future. They offer health and damage resist for the defensive value, they offer no negative status ailment resist, and they offer the best potency among all units. They also offer some photon power, and I think the most important thing to remember is that this is a flexible unit for multiple build paths. If you are a player that wants to build more balance, that wants to consider having a lot of HP, damage resist, as well as having some potency, this is your best unit, bar none. And then on the flip side, if you are a player that wants to go full glass cannon and full potency, these units offer the best potency as well. So these new Schwarzest units offer the best of both worlds for a player that wants to go and create their own unique builds. But one final thing to mention about these units is that they only provide one potency type. So if you are a player seeking to play multiple weapons, for example, bow and katana braver, these units will not benefit you, and you should seek out the Geant or Greas options, since we know that Geant and Greas units offer 2% potency in all potency types. Those are the units to use if you're planning on doing a multiple potency type build. So that wraps it up, guys. I hope you learned something about these new weapons and units today. I hope some of the information provided today was of some benefit, whether it helps you decide to fully invest into one of these new weapons or units, or to hold off and just wait for what we might see in a couple months. But hey, let me know what you guys are doing with your new gear in the comments down below. I am personally going all in on Cinquem, so I cannot wait to show you guys what I do with my build, but that's going to take time, obviously, with the Photon Scales. Anyways, please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video. I bring out content like this on the weekly basis, and yeah, more great things to come with the channel. As always, thank you everybody for the continual support, and I will see you all in the next video real soon.